All right, it's up there. So, yeah, it's time to get optimistic because good things are happening. 2 years ago, I was showing you digital images of the Seapod and the ArcPad. Now, we're showing you the real Seapod and the ArcPad for sale. Extrapolate that progress 2 years into the future. We're headed to the high seas as fast as we can, and we need your help. The marine engineers have spent tens of millions of their money on our vision. The Seasteading Institute must secure their right to seastead. There's no profit in seasteading until the nonprofit makes it legal. Elon wants to make his own laws on Mars. Why does Musk want to go to Mars? Armageddon asteroid. The chances of this happening in the next 10,000 years is unlikely. Meanwhile, there's a much more terrifying existential threat coming straight at us. The Schwabsteroid is coming. The dragon is staring at you. It's eating the minds of your children. Half of them say they want it. China already has it. Look at these two lovebirds. Read what they say about what they want from your children. Every thought and dollar monitored. Global social credit system. AI panopticon. Under your skin. Bugs for breakfast. 1984 should have been called 2024. You know what keeps me up at night? What if you get what you want? A Prospera in every country. 200 around the globe. Jump forward 25 years. Prospera 2050. 10 million poor people have prosperous children. You're the next Hong Kong. A flea of freedom on the ass of a monstrous state waiting for the next demagogue to rise to power. Social justice demands that it must be seized back for the people. The majority will cheer. That's the best strategy to enrich the state. Grant economic freedom to one pinprick for 2 generations. Watch the wealth be created. Seize it. Repeat. That's what the incentives predict. That's the bust of Lenin. Our tiny, outnumbered community is not confronting the challenge that confronts us and our children. A dozen Prosperas on every continent is not going to save your grandchildren. We don't want to beg for oases of marginal freedom on planet tyranny. We need to put the state out of business. The same way we put communism out of business. The same way we put kings out of business. Free minds always bring the rest of humanity out of the dark age into the next renaissance. That's our job. We need a technology for 10,000 Prosperas immediately. We need to outrace centralized control with so much decentralized innovation. Everybody looks at our floating prosperity zones and says, I want that. The greatest tax is the tax on your attention. Ask yourself how much mental energy you put into state politics. Now ask yourself, who is winning the war for your mind? Be brave. We have a power working for us that's more powerful than all the governments in the world. I'm going to free your minds in the next 2 minutes. You ready? Sounds like the ocean, even though the sound is off. The starlings don't know they're in a pattern. Each starling is following local rules. We think there must be a choreographer, a lead bird they all voted for. They can recreate this in a computer simulation. They don't program the pattern. They program one bird. They make 10,000 copies. They try and fail 100 times until higher order complexity emerges. One cell, one program. They all differentiate following local rules, spontaneously reacting to what the cells next to them are doing. Now I have trillions of cells, all with one program. No top-down conductor. Evolution explains that thought you just had. Millisecond by millisecond, your brain runs a competition. Survival of the fittest thought. You launch into a sentence with no plan for how to finish it. Your brain selects the next fittest word given limited time with tons of information pouring in. The miracle of your consciousness is a foam bubble on top of a raging sea of variation and selection in your brain. Find me a complex system that spontaneously solves problems in a dynamic, ever-changing medium. I'll show you evolution, emergence, decentralization, all the way down to the replicator. If it can create your child, if it can create that thought, if it can create everything we're touching right now, because the economy is an ecology, it can create your government. I heard David Deutsch, the smartest man in the world, say to Naval Ravikant, the wisest man in the world, maybe not destroying the means of correcting errors is the heart of morality. Seasteads are a technology for relentless error correction at the root of governance. Trial and error, decentralized and free, iterate, iterate, iterate. That's how we put them out of business. And it's easy. Great civilizations are founded on pillars. How do you build a pillar on the sea? They've been in operation since 1970. Ocean builders and ArcPad looked at sea pillars and went to first principles. The iceberg principle, big wave hits. Those baby penguins don't even notice. Center of gravity below the waves, easy peasy. Look, it passed the grandpa test. Safety at sea is solved with math. Your frontier for freedom is 12 miles out where the territorial laws don't apply. In the contiguous zone, which features 4 laws you would approve of: no pollution, no sneaking immigrants in, no smuggling, no drilling the seabed. You follow those rules, 99% of land laws don't apply. What about the international law of the sea? Tom W. Bell, his legal analysis determined that if the seastead follows 5 rules, it's exempt from most international conventions. You could try to negotiate for this on land. Seasteaders are simply going to build it and get it 1,000 times. It's a half-hour ferry ride to Libertopia. Hey, Vitalia, there's your medical service. If it never comes to land, it's more free than a cruise ship. Start where oceans are calm. If your maximum wave never gets bigger than 5 meters, you're good to go with the technology the builders are sleeping on right now. Your frontier for startup countries is bigger than Asia. No pirates. The land apes are so busy fighting amongst themselves, they don't even know this exists. Easier than Mars. Less utopian than politics. An obvious technical solution to humanity's deepest social problem, which is monopolies on legal violence founded on static land. Easier to understand than Bitcoin. Easier to engineer than Bitcoin. Easier to explain to your mom than Bitcoin. Look, Mom, it's a buoy with a house on it. Seasick free. Cheaper than a cheap yacht. Doable. Immediately. All we need is the focus of people who want to govern themselves. Okay, room full of seasteaders, converted. Engineering problem, solved. But now we have a new challenge. Seasteaders are building a novel technology. Sea pillar, flotel, each well-defined in international law. Ready for nerd porn? Ideas have sex, as Matt Ridley explains. New mutation. It stays at sea for centuries because it's protected in coralcrete, ocean builders. Or it's built of materials that don't corrode in seawater, ArcPad. What's the legal status of the next iteration of this vessel that will stay at sea for half a century? Fortunately, we don't have to ask a politician. We are customers for free private governance. Where can we buy that? Where can we rent it? About 60 businesses are competing to sell you legal autonomy. That's how they make a living. Some of them have already reached out to the Seasteading Institute. Right now, 180,000 self-governing societies are on the ocean. Flagging registries offer a bewildering variety of governance options. It's like a buffet out there. What if they stay at sea forever? Here's the hack. Maritime flags allow you to utilize government protection without inducing government control. It's legal judo. You use the power of your larger opponent to win. I don't want to argue. I want to win. Winners don't argue. Losers argue. If you're arguing with statists, they've already won. Human nature is not going to change on the sea. Human incentives are going to change on the sea. They already have. Each of these is a de facto, self-governing private city. Do they go to war? Do they hold elections? They can't afford it. They have to persuade governance customers to volunteer their money. It's easier to build 1,000 seasteads than one cruise ship. We should be rolling them off the assembly line like this. The scholars want to argue, we're going to build. That's why everybody hates us. That's why everybody is afraid of us. I got a crew of seasteaders willing to die for freedom, as great souls always have. Chad and Nadia lived an action thriller to make Tom Cruise jealous. Now they're on the other side of the planet, seasteading. They're alive because Grant flew across the world, jumped in a speedboat, and rescued them. He's on a race with a SWAT team that boarded Chad and Nadia's sailboat with machine guns. Now he's seasteading, and he's speaking next. 3 of these guys died for seasteading. They secretly lived on the high seas for more than a year. The documentary premieres today in New York City. The director, white guy in the middle, asked me to speak at today's premiere. I said, dude, I need to go to Liberty in our lifetime to get help from crazy motherfuckers like you who don't get certified by our safety research. I tell stories that get people killed. They're not stopping. More are joining. Are they going to be free or are they going to be stuck in state waters? It's up to us. Grant and Mitchell are smart businessmen. Damn them. The incentives tell ArcBad and Ocean Builders to build 1,000 in territorial waters for eco-tourists. Lame. The Seasteading Institute needs them to build 1,000 for international waters. The 12 companies we've inspired are face-to-face with a bureaucratic wall. If you want to fast-track seasteads rolling off the assembly line, getting insured and flagged, ocean industry volunteers at my nonprofit have developed a plan for the first Seastead Classification Society. My brother-in-law is an insurance executive. He introduced Grant and Mitchell to a marine insurance broker. He's assuming seasteading is the next industry. Let's 10x our budget. Hey, Silicon Valley, it's easier to protect your boat on the sea than your car in San Francisco. My pillar is more stable in a tsunami than your pillar is in an earthquake in California. Are you progressive? My pillar is the ultimate technology for progress in good governance. Are you conservative? My pillar rewards self-reliance and business success. Are you libertarian? My pillar will let you vote with your house. But my C pillar will fulfill your real secret fantasy. You can shut up every statist who ruins the dinner party tonight. I want to hear it said over and over. Oh, you got a plan to govern other people's lives? Seastead it or shut up. Skin in the game, Taleb. If you won't seastead your political idea, you don't really believe in it. Put your socialist friend on a C pillar. He's powerless to force others to do what he wants. He's empowered to sell his ideology to customers. Voila! He's an anarcho-capitalist. Seasteads are a technology to bring out the best in human nature. You are a starling. Do you care about the environment? My pillar is better than sustainable. My pillar is eco-restorative. Every seastead we build will increase the number of coral gardens on the ocean. Hey, journalists in the room, the only reason to lie and lie about seasteads is you're terrified we might set a better example. If you're an angel investor, you're going to need thousands of startup governments to figure out which ones are going to prosper. Any one seastead could be more fundamentally different at the root level of governance than any special economic zone. Any successful seastead is going to be more replicable by the thousands than any success on land. On seasteads, freedom will reach escape velocity. Innovations will emerge from free competition that will get free people to Mars and will put the bankrupt states out of business. We ain't going to Mars unless Bitcoin goes to the moon when seasteads free the seas. Then sad Schwab will have the power to decide whether he owns nothing, but we'll own ourselves and we'll be happy. Here's my case among all the opportunities for free societies available to us. Startup nano nations on the stateless half of the planet are the fastest, most inspiring, most realistic, most peaceful, least likely to provoke political backlash, most scalable technology to innovate in a market of voluntary governance and set 100,000 examples that prove evolution works in a market of free choice. It's not hard. It's doable. Humanity needs a frontier. If any billionaire is serious about seasteading, our naval architect, a Dutch ANCAP, has spent 5 years convincing me that for less than $2 million, we could have seasteading in a couple years. Boat yards in Norway build sea pillars for the North Sea all day long. They can build it at 1% of the size, insure it, and station it in calm equatorial waters. Buy a sea pod, buy an arc pad. But if you want to secure their legal freedom on the high seas, donate big to the Seasteading Institute. We can flag faster than you can legislate. 3 people died for it. You need to donate to it. A couple donors here today are already going to get their names engraved on the keystone of the first flag for international waters. You want to go down in history, free all seas everywhere for all seasteaders. I would put our nonprofit up against any libertarian think tank in the world. Nobody makes things happen and inspires what we do as fast as we do. Do people die for your academic paper? Libertarian scholars always come to me. You're all over the news. How do we sell our ideas? And I always say the same thing. Eggheads, ideas don't change the world. Stories change the world. Heroes, villains, founding myths. Civilizations are founded on stories. The seasteading story of liberty is what inspired Chad and Nadia to risk their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to go down in history as the first seasteaders. The seasteading story of liberty is what inspired the aquitects, engineers, maritime lawyers, artists to volunteer to help us create the next new world. This is my next book. Myth comes first. Heroes come next. Philosophy comes in dead last. Alexander the Great wasn't inspired by Aristotle. He was inspired by Homer. 5 years from this to this. That's why they hate us. We will never stop. Western civilization is Athens plus Jerusalem. You want to build a Masada or an ark? At Masada, they sacrificed their children. From the ark, they built a new world. Italy swallowed Venice. French Polynesia swallowed Blue Frontiers. Honduras swallowed Zedes twice. Marxism swallowed your schools. Envy is eating the West. The tyrants wait for you to create wealth. It's always a race to the next frontier. Always, always, throughout time, it will never end. From Odysseus through Chad and Nadia to us, we are called to adventure. Oceans first, Mars next. Once your mind expands to the new dimensions of the sea, it will never go back. If you love your children, I expect a big donation. If your mind is free, I'll see you at sea. Questions? Do I get off?
One question from audience. If there's anybody, of course.
So what do you think is going to stop the state from trying to control those seasteads? I mean, they are sufficiently easy targets for a navy, aren't they?
They sure are. They can always come with their guns, no matter what we do. It's us versus the guns. Here's how companies in Silicon Valley win. Here's how seasteading wins. You build these things, you scale up to 10,000. You put them all over the world. Half the Earth's surface is unclaimed by any government. You scale up so fast that powerful people like them and everybody loves them. The same way cruise ships scaled up. They started with rich people. They're free private floating cities. Build it and scale and iterate and iterate and iterate and iterate. That's how we do it. Governments are dinosaurs. They're slow. But if they want to send their U-boats, they can do it anytime. They did it to us already. We're still building. We're done with arguing. We're building. So come and kill us. We're doing it.